A common misconception is that real Christians shouldn't grieve. Many people mistakenly think that if we have faith in God, we shouldn't grieve at the loss of a loved one. But the truth is that it's perfectly natural to grieve and necessary for Christians to grieve, just as it is for anyone else. Grieving doesn't mean that our faith is weak or that we don't trust God enough. It means we're human beings. Let's read a scene that illustrates the truth adapted from the Gospel of John. We'll have 4 readers. Well, I'll read it for us. Then we'll read the focus note on 1 on pages 269 and page 270. 269 and 270 in your book. Toward the end of the scene, all of us will say the 2 lines from the crowd in unison. Okay? On his arrival, this is focus note 1. On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many people had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. Martha: Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died, but I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask. Jesus said, your brother will rise again. Martha: I know he will rise again in the resurrection of the last day. Jesus: I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even though he dies, and whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? Martha said, yes, Lord. I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who was to come into the world. And after she had said this, Martha went back and called her sister Mary aside. The teacher is here, and he is asking for you. When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now, Jesus had not yet entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When those who had been with Mary in the house, comforting her, noticed how quickly she got up and went out, they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet. Mary said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the crowd had come along with her, also weeping, he was deeply moved in the spirit and troubled. Where have you laid him? All of us together. Come and see, Lord. Jesus wept. See how he loved him. Jesus showed his genuine, deep feelings of grief by weeping publicly. Jesus' feelings were not a sign of weakness or a lack of faith. They were natural and normal given the circumstances. If it's okay for Jesus to grieve, it certainly is okay for the rest of us. Notice that Jesus also cared for Martha and Mary in their grief. They both were trying to make sense of the loss, and they were upset that Jesus hadn't been there to heal their brother before he died. Jesus listened calmly and non-judgmentally to Martha and Mary's expression of pain, feelings, and he responded by sharing the good news with them. In the book of Isaiah, a prophecy describes Jesus as a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. This man of sorrows has shown us what it means to live as a child of God. As Christians, we can do no better than to follow his example, grieving when we suffer loss and caring for others in grief. Let us pray. Lord Jesus, you are a person of sorrows, well acquainted with grief. More than that, you are the one who has borne our grief and sorrows. When we suffer losses, help us to remember that you are with us carrying our sorrows. Fill us with your compassion so we can carry your comfort to others who grieve, helping them know that you are with them. Thank you for sharing our burden and making it possible for us to bear. Amen. Well, change, buddy. 3 quick points about grief. We'll start this class with some quick points to keep in mind as we talk about caring for those who are grieving. Some of this will be a review, but it's important for us to remember. A, grief is normal, natural, and necessary. All too often, people mistakenly think that grief is an unnatural process and something to be avoided. But as you learned in your pre-class reading, grief is normal, natural, and necessary, the three N's of grief. It's normal because at different times in life, we all experience it. It's natural because grief is the very human process of adjusting emotionally and socially to a loss. And it's necessary because avoiding grief and burying difficult feelings leads to greater problems in the long run. We need to be accepting of grief in ourselves and in others. The more comfortable we are with our own grief, the better we can accept other people's grief and effectively care for them. The second point is one we touched on in the opening devotion. Sometimes Christians assume that they should stuff away any negative feelings and present an image of strength as if grieving were a sin or a sign that they lack faith. Nothing could be further from the truth. God gave us the capacity to experience feelings, positive and negative. And all our feelings play a role in our lives. When we fully share our emotions with a person we can trust, such as your Stephen minister, we open the door for Christ to bring us hope and healing. C. Caregivers need to focus on the grieving person's frame of reference. Third, to effectively care for someone who is grieving, we need to focus on that person's frame of reference. Also try to see the situation from the perspective of the other person rather than primarily from your own perspective. Part of this is being in touch with your own feelings, because caring for a grieving person can sometimes stir up our own feelings of grief and loss. Stephen ministers need to be careful not to become so caught up in their own grief that they struggle to focus on the care receivers. Suppose the Stephen minister is caring for someone who has lost a spouse, and the Stephen minister had also lost a spouse but had not fully worked through that process. The Stephen minister's own grief may make it more difficult to perceive and respond to the feelings the care receiver is experiencing. Here's another example. A Stephen minister who felt a great deal of guilt connected with the grief experience may assume that his or her receiver is dealing with guilt too, when in fact, the care receiver's experience may be entirely different. Rather than projecting his or her own feelings onto the care receiver, the Stephen minister needs to focus on what the care receiver is actually thinking and feeling. Now, having experienced a similar loss can help you connect to the care receiver's loss, but it's important to not let personal feelings get in the way of being able to listen to and empathize with the care receiver. Before we move on, let's take a few moments to talk about helping people express their grief. First, what are the reasons grieving people may feel uncomfortable expressing their grief? Why would someone be uncomfortable with expressing grief?
Because it's kind of personal. They don't want to talk about it.
That's very true. Grief is very personal. Anything else?
They don't want to appear weak.
Ma'am?
They don't want to appear weak.
They don't want to appear weak.
It's not enough to take it.
Right. I can handle this. Don't worry about me. I can handle this. I've got this. Or they don't want to appear to be unfaithful as if they're questioning God about what happened. When they may very well be questioning God, but questioning God is not being unfaithful. Questioning God is being human. That happens. Second, what are ways that the Stephen ministers can help grieving people feel more comfortable expressing their grief? How can you help someone feel more comfortable to express their grief?
Seeing if they'll talk. I mean, maybe that'll let a little the frustration, grieving process It might help them to talk about it.
Yeah. Sometimes you can help them talk about it.
Say, I'm here to listen.
Mhm.
There you go.
And very, very shortly make reference to something that might have happened to you. I mean, very, very shortly.
Yeah, you may want to share a similar experience. Never say I know how you're feeling, but you know I have been through this as well, and I did grieve. I did express
You
grief.
don't want to go off into the whole history.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to chase your rabbit, but you want to maybe help them feel more comfortable by saying, I understand you're mad at God because when XYZ happened, I got upset with God also.
Tell him that's okay.
Yes, and tell them that's okay. God's a big boy. He's got his big boy pants on. You can question God and him not get angry about it.
Tell them they can cry, because a lot of people,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't cry, and that is not a good thing.
Yeah, but you got to remember that there are people who don't cry,
That's true. That's true.
who do not cry during grief. Over the years, I've met some very strange ways that people experience grief. From absolute anger, I mean anger at the world, to just totally shutting down.
I got a question.
Yeah,
What is this frame of reference? What does that mean?
means your experience. Your frame of reference means your experiences.
Okay.
What you think back to? Huh? What you think back to?
Yeah, what you go back to. Your frame of reference is what you go back to. Anything else? Well, let's move on to the next session then. Applying key caring concepts to grief. Say that 3 times. Applying key caring concepts. I can't even say it twice. Applying key caring concepts to grief. Your training has already taught you much of what you need to know to care for grieving people. But let's take a few minutes to review some of those insights and apply them to grief ministry. Go ahead and flip over to your safe house.
On the safe house.
That's what we're at.
Mhm.
Everybody got the safe house in front of them?
Yeah, one of them.
Okay, focus note 2 on page 271 shows the safe house, which we covered in module 2 on feelings. How does the safe house relate to ministering to those experiencing grief? How does this faith house minister to those experiencing grief?
First off, the Stephen Minister can be the safe house,
Right?
or the place that people can feel safe.
You're exactly right. The Stephen Minister is the safe house. Be a place where they can tell you about anything and everything. We had a gentleman years ago when I was in Alex City, at Trinity in Alexander City. We had a man pass away, and I knew of him. I had met him a couple of times, but I did not know him really well. And when he passed away, his wife started coming to Trinity with her parents. And she came to see me one afternoon, and she knocked on the office door and asked, could she see me? And I told her, yeah, I didn't have anything going on right then. And she said, did you know my husband? And I said, well, I've met him a couple of times. I had a morning devotional show on the radio, and he was the program manager. So I had to go through him to pay. And if I got too long-winded, he'd let me know it was too long-winded. So I told her, I said, we've met a time or two. She said, well, what'd you think of him? I said, he seemed to be a good man. He seemed to be a nice man. I had no problems with him, and he gave us a good break. I didn't have to pay full price for my devotional time. And I said, you seem to be a good man. And she said, oh, well, then I can't talk to you. And it dawned on me that she wanted to talk about something that did not make him look as good of a man as people thought he was. But because I made the mistake of saying, well, yeah, he was a good man, he helped us out, I instantly became someone she couldn't talk to. And I found out later that she did find a pastor who didn't know him. And I don't know what they talked about, but yeah, it was not, there were things about his life that were not nice. As Stephen ministers, we've got to be careful how we project ourselves, because we may actually end up projecting ourselves in a way that shuts the person down, that they don't think you have empathy for them. So we have to be careful about what we share, because we may actually share something that does more damage than it does good. What other parts of the house would help with grief? Come on, the very foundation, grace-based acceptance. Accepting the fact that they need to cry, or that they don't want to cry, whichever the case may be. Accepting their way of grieving. Not saying it's right or wrong. I know I shouldn't cry. I'm a Christian. No, it's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. Jesus cried when Lazarus died. It's okay. So just being that person that they can trust, that is listening to them, not looking at your phone, not looking. And I know I've told y'all the story before, but when Dad was in Augusta Hospital, when Dad was in Augusta Hospital, they sent a chaplain to come visit with us. And about 10 minutes into his meeting, he pulled his sleeve up and looked at his watch. My mother said, well, if you don't have time for us, you go do what you need to do, but don't waste your time on us. That greatly offended my mother, that he checked the time, because that automatically gives the emphasis, gives the perception that you're not listening and that you don't have time for them.
Not important.
So would
You're
it,
not important.
so would it be better if when you're a Stephen minister and you're listening to somebody, not to have them watch on?
I always wear a watch.
No, I mean, have it where they can't see it's what I'm saying.
I wear my watch on my left hand upside down, so that if I need to check the time, I can rub my forehead and I can see my watch.
But everybody's not as far as you.
That's why I've been asked 100 times, why do you wear your watch upside down? Because I can scratch my nose, I can scratch my head, I can, anything that you can use my left arm for, and it brings my watch right in front of me, and I know what time it is. Because remember, how long are you supposed to spend with the person?
An hour.
1 hour. Also, as soon as I walk into a house, I look for a clock. Is there a clock that I can see, so that I can use the clock to keep up with time? There's a lot of different ways you can check time without people knowing that you're checking the time. But when you do what he did, he went through the whole thing. He pulled his sleeve back and he looked down at his watch, and
That's a signal sometimes that, hey, people, it's time to round this up.
exactly.
He made a production of it.
Yeah, he made a production of it. It offended my mother greatly. All right, let's talk about the mud hole again. Focus number 3. Page 272 also shows the mud hole. Also from module 2, how does the mud hole tie into caring for a grieving person? How does the mud hole tie into caring for a grieving person? Nobody?
Well, the care receiver gets so stuck on himself, he can get down in a mud hole. If he won't listen to Stephen minister and let him help him,
You're exactly right.
he will get stuck in the mud hole.
You're exactly right. You over-empathize too much, and you'll find yourself in that mud. And that uses the example, and we would be cognizant of it as well. If you've recently lost your husband or lost a spouse, you don't need to be assigned. Excuse me, I got to get rid of a box. You don't need to be assigned to someone who's grieving the loss of a spouse. If we determine that you haven't fully worked through your grief, and there's some people right off the top of my head in this church that haven't fully worked through their grief, we would not assign you to a person who's experiencing grief because you're liable to get stuck in that mud hole. They're liable to call up things that happened in your situation. You may still be grieving over the loss of your best friend or your spouse or a child or whoever it may have been, and that you're not as able to be as effective as a Stephen minister because you get stuck in the mud hole. You can have empathy. There's no way. And anybody know the difference between empathy and sympathy?
Empathy and what?
Sympathy.
Oh,
The difference between empathy and sympathy. Sandra, do you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sympathy, you feel for the person, but you don't take it internally. You don't feel it for yourself. Empathy, you feel it more. You feel their feelings more, but you don't let them take control of you enough that you get down there with them. You actually you can understand their feelings and you can understand, empathize, you want to care for them, but you can't care for them if you're down there.
And that's the key sentence. I can empathize with someone. I'm very careful to never say that I have sympathy for someone. Sympathy indicates that I have been there and I know how you're feeling. Empathy, I understand the situation. I know the situation, but my feelings are not lost in the situation. I can empathize with anyone who's lost their father at a young age because I lost my father at a young age. Very seldom will I tell someone I sympathize with you because their relationship with their father may have been a bad relationship. How they dealt with their dad may be totally different than how I dealt with my dad. I can empathize with them. I've been there. I've been there and I know what you're going through. Sympathy is I'm going through it too. So you have to be careful. Empathize will help you get them out of the ditch. Sympathy will get you caught in the ditch. And I know you're sitting there thinking, but we send sympathy cards all the time. Knew what y'all were thinking. Knew what you were thinking.
all the time, that's what you buy.
I knew what you were thinking. The reality is,
It says empathy.
if you're noticing the mud hole, empathy is helping them out. Sympathy is sliding down in the hole.
Well, you can have sympathy to a great degree with the person and know because you can, just being human, we can know what you.
We can know what grief feels like, but I can't know their grief.
No, you can't know their grief.
Right.
Really. You
Right.
can empathize with them. Their grief is probably different to
Exactly.
what yours would be. And empathy, you got to really make sure that you don't start thinking that I feel what you feel.
Exactly.
Because you can't be much help to somebody.
Exactly.
Exactly what they feel.
And sympathy is I feel what you feel. I have no clue why we send sympathy codes, because the definition of sympathy in many ways is I'm feeling what you're feeling. And I don't know what somebody's feeling. Nancy just recently lost her husband, Ralph. And she's been very calm, very collective, very matter of fact. This is what we need to do, when we need to do it, how we need to do it. She is not the typical grieving widow, especially for someone who died so suddenly. But that's how she grieves. That's how she does it. I can empathize with her because I've lost a close loved one, but I can't sympathize because I still have my wife and I don't know how she grieves. I don't know what all went on the first 2 days after he passed away. I was out of the state those first 2 days, so I talked to her on the phone, but that was all I was able to do.
She had an advantage though. She had her son there who.
Exactly. Well, she had both sons. She had Kelly and Jeff both there to help her through it.
About Kelly.
Yeah, she had Kelly and Jeff both there to walk her through it. Okay, in Module 5, we talked about focusing on the process of caring. How does focusing on the process relate to grief ministry? How does focusing on the process relate to grief ministry? That's a really good question. How does focusing on the process relate to grief ministry? Sandra, you want to help us out?
Where are we at? What page is that?
We're on,
Now it's being down below.
If you're focusing more on curing the person, getting them past the grief and on with their life, you don't give them the opportunity to grieve like they need to grieve.
right, yeah, there you go, yeah,
Concentrate on the care process,
yeah.
not the results. I mean, you know what the results needs to be, but you
But-
can't concentrate on.
No. Turn the page back, Hazel. Go back one page.
Oh, you want us to go back?
Yeah.
Telling me to do,
Thought you said focus no.
right?
You said focus 5. This is 4.
Well, yeah, but we'll get, we're not on 5 yet. We're not on that diagram yet. We're not on that diagram yet.
And you wonder why I'm confused?
The diagram that you need to know about is above my head.
We see that and we can't find that.
It's not in there evidently.
Okay.
I did not realize that they had left it out. Yeah, it doesn't give a page number for that one, just that shows slide 8. How does the process relate to grief ministry? We are the caregiver. God is the cure giver.
We're always supposed to, in any situation, we're not supposed to be focused on the end result that we want to see. We're supposed to be focusing on the process of getting them to get there, but
Right.
in their time, and just being there to listen and take whatever time it takes for them to work through.
Okay, does it help you now that we're on the next diagram you have? Does that help? The course of a crisis, focus note number 4, to page 273. You can see the course of a crisis diagram from module 8. Take a few moments to look it over. Let's talk about how the course of a crisis relates to caring for those who are grieving. First question. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. First question. What could cause a grieving person to move toward greater brokenness?
Feeling sorry for himself.
Well, that's a good one. Pity parties, pity party is bad.
Somebody else coming to visit and helping them grieve.
There you go.
I mean, they come, and they don't come to kind of do their best to, you can't build them up, but you can sit by a person and make them a whole lot sadder than they were.
Oh yeah, you sure can. You sure can.
Some people like to be by themselves for a little while they're grieving.
Some people just want space. They don't want anybody around them. They don't want anybody to talk to. They need space so they can process their own thoughts and their own feelings. And we have to understand that and give them that space. That when, maybe you're working with someone who just lost the spouse, and you say, well, and in the process of it, they never mentioned the spouse in your whole meeting. Are you going to say, well, let's talk about your spouse for a moment? No, because they didn't bring it up.
Well, sometimes you get to a point that they just don't, you gotta break through that at some point.
At some point, you've got to do it.
Your spouse, or is there any stories you could tell me so that, I can understand what it's like? Or
There you go.
You don't do that right on,
Right.
head on first. But
That's down the road a couple of 3 visits.
If you go for a while and they obviously haven't even brought the name up, it's obviously too, they're not dealing with it because they're in denial, in effect, because they're just so stuck on maybe guilt or shame or whatever they're feeling that they don't want to talk about. At some point, that's the thing that can finally get them.
That can get them on the course to being whole.
Yeah, that's what really affects them so much. But one of the biggest things they can do to take that bad road is to turn to alcohol or drugs,
There you go.
which does happen sometimes.
Yes, it does.
Extend the pain.
Yeah, it does. Second, what could cause a grieving person to move toward greater wholeness? Anybody?
Maybe see if they wanna go somewhere to eat or something, to get them out of the house. So they're not in a dark place.
One way. What's another way you can help someone move to wholeness rather than brokenness?
Well, the more you can get them to talk to you and open up to you, the better they'll be.
Exactly.
And sometimes you gotta break that down. That's holding back what they're truly feeling.
Mhm.
I mean, you don't want harder questions to do that.
Right.
Sometimes it can be a very simple question that kind of breaks through. You can start talking.
And most of the time they will give you an opening. They'll say something.
And sometimes
That-
you can pick up on a little something they say.
Exactly.
Can you tell me a little more about that? I'm interested in learning a little more about why you feel, what's going on that those feelings. Tell me a little more about that. Just
Well, you
keep
know,
talking.
I don't even know how to write a check. I've never had to write checks. He always wrote the checks.
That is it.
That's an opening. That's an opening to say, well, tell me about some of the other things he did for you. Notice I didn't immediately say, well, here, let me write that check for you. No. Tell me about some other things he did for you. And let me tell you, folks, over the years of ministry, I have met people when their spouse died, they didn't know how to write a check. I really have. They had never wrote a check in their life. From the time they got married at a very young age and the husband did everything. I've met women who didn't even know what bills they owed. They didn't know who they had to pay because they had never paid bills. I tell husbands all the time, that's the worst thing you can do for your wife is do everything. Because then if you die before she does, they don't know how to do anything. You've got to let them help out.
I had somebody tell me one time that I didn't realize everything costs as much as it does. I don't know how money go around. I'm having difficulties making ends meet because I didn't know what everything costs, and they don't have a clue.
Or they call you up and say, I just got a phone call from the car company. They're going to come repossess the car. What do I do?
Or my power just got turned.
Yeah, my power just got turned off. What do I do? Because they literally don't know what who their husband paid or when he paid them.
Yeah.
Very seldom do you see that with the husband that doesn't know. Very seldom does the woman the lady handle everything, or the wife handle.
Go ahead.
Well, your sister's
Oh, well, my
Stacy
sister.
didn't even know how to
I
drive.
didn't know how to drive, didn't have a job, and she was a widow.
He drove everywhere they wanted to go. He drove.
So
So she'd never learned to drive, never got a license. She was, I don't know, 35 or 40? Was she younger than that?
she was in her 40s. She was in her 40s.
Yeah, she was in her 40s before she ever got a driver's license.
She was like 40s, 43.
Miss Sandra, if you'll take the next two, I've got a 10 o'clock
I
meeting.
think the three
Because I
is
had to
mine.
talk to my
Anybody?
sister.
Do what?
I think three is mine. Anybody? Right.
Okay.
I think that's
Yeah, do break. Because I've got
three's the one we're on,
right.
and it goes on to break.
Oh, okay.
I'll get to break.
Okay, good.
Did you, Rob?
Do what?
I said you did good.
Oh, thank you. I need my drink. Okay.
Yeah, her smell was good. She did.
I need my drink.
Now we're gonna switch directions now.
Okay.
All right.
What page are you on?
I don't know. I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay.
I'm just on the page in my book. I think you're going to be going to page 268 before we go with the first one. 268.
We're going backwards.
We're jumping all over the book this morning, honestly. But this is on our own grief experiences. So the last exercise you had in the book was something about doing your own personal grief timeline. You and I talked about that yesterday. And that was just to get you thinking about when you've experienced grief, what you've had going on in your life that you've experienced grief, so that we could do this little exercise. But let me get back to the book here. Everyone suffers losses and experiences grief. As Stephen ministers, your own grief history can be a source of understanding for your caregiving. At the same time, you'll need to make sure your own grief experience doesn't get in the way of caring for others who are grieving. In your preparation for this class, you created a personal grief timeline using Focus Note J on page 268 of your Stephen Ministry Training Manual. We just turned back to 268. So we're going to use that timeline now for an activity to help us consider our own feelings of grief. So we don't let them interfere with our caregiving. Start by forming pairs, which we're not going to do. We're going to just do it as a group of three instead of trying to break down into pairs, since we don't really have two pairs here. And we'll just do it a little more informally than what this is doing. All right. We want to take turns sharing some of your own experiences with grief, drawing from your timeline. Share only what you feel comfortable mentioning in this setting. Feel free to skip over parts of your timeline you'd rather not share. So we're only asking you to share what you're comfortable with sharing. While the other person is sharing, give your full attention to his or her grief experience. Focus on your partner's frame of reference, trying to feel and understand things from his or her perspective. You can certainly ask follow-up questions and reflect what he or she has said, but try to allow the person sharing to do most of the talking. You'll have 5 minutes to share as much or as little as you'd like about your past grief experience while the other person listens. Be prepared to care for each other if there are some tears or difficult feelings. All right, I think what we're going to do is, instead of doing it, we're going to let each of you just kind of briefly share and let the rest of us just listen to your sharing. And then we're going to discuss how you feel listening to those experiences. And if somebody has a question they'd like to intercede with, that'd be fine. But I think rather than trying to do this, since we don't have the pairs to really share just one-on-one, and we're a small group and we know each other, and I think that everybody's as comfortable with sharing with each other as they would be on just one-on-one basis. So let's just start with Hazel. And if you've got a grief experience and I know you had thought about it because we talked about it, that you'll have something to share, and just use just a few minutes. It don't have to be very long, and just kind of share your grief experience.
Okay, I don't mind. My daddy was a sharecropper, and we moved from place to place to where the people that own the house would provide us a house, and my daddy and his 6 sons would do the work for these people. So in the 9th grade, I was very well established in school. I went to Vinemont, and back then we graduated in the 9th grade and went to West Point or Colon. But anyway, in the 9th grade, and it was later in the year, we were getting ready to do, we always did a class play, the 9th graders did, which was very important. And we were trying out for parts. My daddy just up and moved us. I mean, just took me out and moved me. We moved to Baileyton. It was a 9th grade school too. So I had to graduate there with people I didn't know. I mean, I only knew these people for about a month. And it really bothered me. But I knew that, this is what we have to do. We don't question Daddy, we just do it. So that was in the 9th grade. And then on in the 11th grade, I went from Baileyton to Fairview, because Baileyton was a feeder school. Went to Fairview and got into clubs and groups and people and stuff. And I was, in the end of the 11th grade, I was going to be officers in 2 different clubs. That was good. Well, in the summertime, Daddy up and moved me again. We moved from Baileyton back up to Vinemont, and I went to West Point. So I had a lot of changes there. But now, this was a good move, because when I went to West Point, people from Vinemont had moved up there, so I knew people at West Point, some of them, which made it easier. But still, it was trauma. I mean, I just felt completely not good about things,
Yeah.
You may go on with the rest of them.
Yeah, let's let them have time to share too. But this is an instance where you can have grief experiences that aren't related to a death.
Yeah.
You have other losses in your life that you can have a grief experience that And you may have people that you work with that have a great, even over a job loss. They're grieving the job loss and they've lost their sense of identity and they're grieving over it. So you can have grief experiences that are not as deep down and soul changing as a death is. So, Francis, have you had a brief experience in your life that you can share just even
I
briefly?
have just sit here and counted 8 people who I was responsible for at their death.
Oh my goodness, you've had a lot of brief
And
experiences.
they were my aunt Opal, my mother's two older sisters, both of whom, no, they were her younger sisters, but both of whom had been kind of like you were talking about your sister. When their husbands died, they didn't have a clue, you know. And one of them had a daughter then who had cerebral palsy.
Oh,
So they ended up in the nursing home or whatever. And but my brothers both had wives who passed away early. One had a 13-year-old daughter, and the other one had daughters in the 20s. So I have kind of been mom or helper or whatever. But I'll tell you about for my sake, both my mother and my dad lived into their 90s.
wow.
My dad was in his 50s when I was born. My mom was 42. And so I was very blessed to have them. But my dad was in World War One. Let's say one, way back one. And they would, as a kid, I would come to the courthouse when there was a courthouse, and they would have those there was a
Poppies.
poppies. And so my mother and dad were both great, and they had good lives. They were on the farm, they were. But I didn't shed any tears when they were dying because they had such good lives and they knew where they were going. But as a kid, I would go to the courthouse with my dad and we'd get those poppies.
Mhm.
So he died in December, right before Christmas.
Oh,
And so the next May, when I think it was in May, they would pass out the poppies, you know. And I was driving from here to Gadsden. I don't know why, but at some 4-way stop out there, they were passing out the poppies, and I got one, and I cried for an hour and a half.
it broke the dam.
Yeah, I cried for an hour.
You had a little bit of delayed grieving, but
Yeah.
you know, tears are good. I mean,
All of mine were sad but good.
yeah.
My brother, yeah, they're very sad, very, very, very sad. But that's
So-
stories to be told.
Yeah. You've dealt with a number of situations, varying types of grief.
Yeah.
And
One
that
with 14-year-old,
so
the one with 14-year-old daughter.
you can empathize
On
with
the
a lot of
other hand-
situations.
On the other hand, both of my brothers lived all over Europe and North Africa, and also we got. But I just remember, it was like when I got that poppy, it was like all that
Just broke the dam.
that I had not cried about. I mean, in effect, I didn't have anything to cry about because I knew where it was. But anyway, I did have something to cry about. I just didn't do it for 6 months.
And that's something else you're likely to find too in working with Stephen Ministry.
That's when they were talking about the person not talking about it.
Yeah, sometimes the call the when you need to go and help
You
the
pick up
person.
the towel.
Sometimes it's not real soon after the loss. In fact, it usually takes a little while before they feel anything much. I mean, it's like a numbness for a lot of people when they lose someone, and it may be months after this person has passed that it all sinks in and they need somebody. I visited with one person that it had been a couple of 3 years, and she still wasn't past it. She'd never worked through it and had still not got past it. She was functioning. She was doing things. But I think I did put the discussion questions up here. But it took a while before somebody
I'm not crying up sales.
realized that she needed help outside the family. You know, Sherry.
Mine's a lot. When I was started at 5, I lost my first grandfather, which I didn't know too much about him. Because 5 years old, you don't learn a lot. He had a massive heart attack. Then when I was 6, they sent my uncle home from the Army. He didn't die in the Army, but he was going on a blind date and got killed by a drunk driver. 3 of them did, and the driver got hurt. So that was another one at 6 years old. Then when I was 12 and a half, my mother passed around October. That's when y'all met my brother. And I really never got to grieve because I automatically was, I step back. So then my grandmother was supposed to help, and my aunt was supposed to help with him. So we moved in next door to my grandmother. Okay.
Now you say we had
My daddy and my sister and my baby brother. So this was like in October, which before that we had lost my great grandfather in February, then my mom. Then in March the 22nd, the day before my birthday, my grandmother that was supposed to be helping take care of us passed away with a massive heart attack in the house. And then I turned 13 on her viewing. And then it was a while before I guess I'd lost anybody. And then I was like 19, my other grandmother, which was 54. So all these were not very old. She had a massive heart attack in front of my sister. So my sister has had a lot too. So that was when I was 19. And I don't even count my stepmom because my stepmom, I know her and she didn't understand nothing. She was a pastor's daughter. Her dad was a preacher. And you'd ask the questions, you need to go. She'd tell me to go out in the street and get my answers. She wouldn't help me. So it was a rough one. And then Robert brought me into the ministry. Moving is like a death because you're sitting here changing jobs. And you're making a few friends and you're not there very long. So, and until 2007 when I got to it. And same way with Walmart, you don't make a lot of people. You don't meet them for very long before you open and go again. So there's my
Had a lot of loss for a long time.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess everybody has had types of grief and different types of grief at different times in their life. But at our age, we're tending to lose a lot more than we did, a few years ago.
I guess you could say as a teen, taking care of my little brother. So my dad remarried at 14.
Yeah.
And still taking care of him after that. You don't have that time.
But see, all your own experiences with grief is equipping you to help other people with their grief in one way or another, whether it just be as a friend or as a part of your church family. And you can still kind of be of use to help people, just as somebody to sit there with them and just let them grieve. But Stephen ministers have a different perspective after you've gone through and you've learned how to listen and you've learned how to not get over involved with their grief. You learn how to help them grieve without getting too deep in it yourself. Although you may sit there and cry with them, and it's okay. If you sit there and cry with them, let's just let them know it's okay for them to cry. Because sometimes you just feel their pain so much that you just cry with them. But it's okay.
But it feels good if just for even a few minutes to have somebody just listen to you. Just actually take the time and listen without, oh, you shouldn't feel that way, or, oh, you'll get used to it. You don't want to say those kind of things. There's nothing worse than saying platitudes to people that just makes them feel worse. Your best bet is to avoid just saying those kind of things that people automatically say to try to, oh, well, he's in a better place. Well, yeah, you know that, but you still miss him. It still hurts. You still got to work through the grief. Anyway, we kind of shrunk that down a bit because we had started late and we're running a little behind. But let's take about maybe a 10-minute break instead of 15 since we're a little behind. Well, let me see where we are. How much have we still got left in this session? We're at break time, so we're going to do a
Oh, I
break.
forgot to say about my dad. I mean, he was in there too. I've had a lot.
You had one brother and one sister.
One brother,
Three
and
of us.
sister, yeah.
There was 8 of us kids. 8.
If y'all want to hear an interesting, a cemetery thing that would make you smile in life from my family.
Cemetery.
Okay.
The cemetery, that Flat Rock Cemetery, you know where Flat Rock is, down
Yeah.
toward, okay. Flat Rock Methodist Church. Okay, so, my older brother, was, like I said, he was all over Europe and Africa and all. He was with, I don't know what it is, but anyway, foreign service officer. So his wife, he was in Lebanon when some shooting came back in the 80s, and he was in the hospital, and he met a person who was a nurse who, through the years, became his wife. She was from Lebanon, and a few years later, they were in Brussels, Belgium, and at 45, she had something, and she died. I mean, she had something in their apartment. They came and took her to the hospital, tremendously good hospital. But a day or two later, she died, had a 13-year-old child. So she had been back here to visit. People from Flat Rock had just took her in. Anyway, so he wanted her to be buried here. So came back and was buried at Crane Hill, Alabama, Flat Rock. And it was about 10, 12 years, it was more like 20 years later before he passed away. So he's buried there too. Anyway, so there's a tombstone that says Cooper. And then there's some writing down there in Greek or something, Lebanese, that because her family wanted something put on there that says, we would have no idea what it says because it's just, and they do from right to left. But it says, from God she came, to God she shall return.
Oh,
And, but anyway, so it has over here on the right side, it has his birthday, which was 1935, and he was born Trade, Alabama. You ever heard of Trade, Alabama?
I have been there.
Trade up until 1960 was the post office, and then Crane Hill swallowed it up. So from 1960 on, people just know Crane Hill. But it says he was born Trade, Alabama. He died such and such in Elgin, Illinois. She was born in Palestine, because it was Palestine when she was born there in 1946, and she died in Brussels, Belgium. So we got Trade, Alabama, nobody's ever heard of. We got Illinois, we got Palestine, and then we got Brussels, Belgium. Anyway, the first time my other brother was here, after they got, he was like, look at that, we're just going to, people are going to come by here, and it's like, what in the world is that?
This little country church, and we're here.
I'm thinking about we're going to keep people are going to think we're crazy.
Let me get all right. How to care at each phase of grief. Turn to page 274 in your book. We're going to talk about specific ways to care for people at each phase of the grief process, starting with phase 1, shock. During shock, it's easy to feel helpless as a caregiver. After all, you can bring the loved one back. You can't bring the loved one back or take the pain away. However, there are powerful ways you can care for someone during this difficult time. Yeah. First, one of the best ways is simply to be there. You show the person you care through the ministry of presence. At this early point of grief, the person might not be ready to talk much about the loss, but your presence is still valuable. It's comforting for the grieving person not to have to be alone. You don't need to say a lot, and the person might not even remember much of what you say, but he or she will most likely remember and deeply appreciate your presence. Don't worry about silences when they occur. You can just reassure the person of your presence with words like those in Focus Note 5. Well, evidently it's not on there. So I'll just read it to you. Focus Note 5. Is Focus Note 5 on page 274 of your book?
Yes.
Okay.
Expressing your presence.
Yes. Just saying something out like, I'm with you, or I'm here and I care. I read an instance the other day, and I don't remember who wrote it and all the exact details, but the lady, someone had died, and this lady just felt she needed to be there, and she just went. And all she did, she said she sat with the person and sat and held their hand, didn't say anything, said at some point she got up and got them something to eat, and they had very few words. But weeks and weeks later, that person told her how much it helped just having a presence there. You don't always have to, silence is okay. And that's one of the things you're going to learn if you're dealing with anybody that's dealing with something very personal. You'll go through a lot of times when they're just silent, especially when it's a recent loss. They just, they don't want to talk. They just need to, but they need somebody sometimes just there to build another presence with them. Something like just, I'm with you, I'm here and I care, you're not alone. Anything as simple as that to just let them know that you're sitting there with them. Accept the care receiver. We're on page 275 in your book now. A second way to care is simply to accept the care receiver right where he or she is. Your pre-class reading discussed how shock and denial, the fog of grief, and physical symptoms are all normal. To be accepting of those reactions, if you see them in your care receiver, your caring presence and acceptance will go a long way toward helping your care receiver begin to adjust to the loss. Listen. Listen, listen, listen. That's a key word for us. Listen. Number 3, a key to showing acceptance and one of the most powerful ways to care during this initial phase of grief is listening. Your care receiver may have no one else who truly listens to what he or she has to say. So your listening can make a big difference. One listening skill you've learned is reflecting feelings. Focus Note 6. Is that in your book? Okay. Focus Note 6 contains an example of reflecting feelings in a grief situation. Let's just read. I'll just read it and go on through it instead of switching back and forth with somebody else reading it. So, the care receiver, I can't bear the thought of my son being gone. Stephen Minister, it's difficult even to imagine it. The care receiver, how can I go on? It seems overwhelming to you. See, you don't try to tell them how to go on. Just reflect what they're saying, that they're overwhelmed with those feelings, that it's, you know, it's more than they can bear at that time. So you just listen. Reflecting feelings helps in a number of ways. First, it lets the person know you really are listening. Second, it helps the person see you as someone safe to talk with, someone who won't criticize or judge what he or she says. And third, it encourages the person to open up and share more. You know, I had someone not long ago, and it wasn't in a Stephen Minister capacity, but I was just talking with someone. And they were talking about when they lost their husband, how everybody in the family wanted to tell them, oh, you just got to get past this. You'll give it time. You just got to get past this. And they wouldn't let them talk because they were hurting too. See, that's the problem with trying to talk to somebody that's really close to the situation, like a family member, your sister, your brother, because they're feeling the loss too. And it's hard for them to just listen to you talk because they're feeling the same things and they want to tell you, well, we got to get past this. It's easier to share those kind of feelings with somebody that's not emotionally involved in the situation. So as a Stephen minister, listening is the main thing you can do with helping. More than anything you can offer is what you say, the listening. Another listening skill you've learned is validating the other person's thoughts and feelings. Focus Note 7 contains an example of validation. Why don't we, Hazel, you be the care receiver, and Francis, you be the Stephen minister, and just read that Focus Note 7.
Okay.
I gotta take. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but while I'm sad my mother died, there's also a sense of relief. She's no longer in pain, and it feels like a burden has been lifted off my shoulders too.
Tell me more about that.
So that's what I mean. Did I skip something?
No, you could have made some remarks to explain how you felt, but that's okay. Just go on.
So that's what I mean. You don't think I'm a bad person, do you?
Of course not. People often feel that way in situations like this. There's no need to be embarrassed about what you're feeling.
See, you're just validating that her feelings are normal, and let them know that that's not unusual at that point. All too often, grieving people are invalidated. They're given the message, you shouldn't feel that way. That's why it's so important in healing when you validate what they share. Because quite often there's somebody else that's, I tell them, well, you shouldn't be feeling that way. You're overreacting, or, you should be past this by now, or you never do that. You just validate that those are normal feelings.
They're feeling what they're feeling.
That's right. Their feelings are their feelings, and it's normal. It's okay. You feel what you feel. Everybody's different, and they may feel different things at different points, and you just can reflect and validate what they're feeling, and that will often encourage them to go ahead and talk a little more and get, that's developing that relationship between the Stephen minister and the care receiver is what you need to do in each step of the process, is get to develop that relationship so they're comfortable talking to you. Don't challenge denial. One important type of response to validate is denial. One important type of response to validate is denial. If the care receiver expresses denial, don't challenge it. At this early point in grief, disbelief or denial is normal. Focus Note 8 on page 278 shows examples of what to say and what not to say if the care receiver expresses denial. Sherry, you want to read Focus Note 8? Just read through Focus Note 8 for us.
I can't believe she did. You'll get used to it. It takes time. It doesn't seem possible, does it?
See, one of those you don't say. One of them is what you would say. Or go ahead with the next one.
He can't be dead. He just can't. I know you're going to turn around and find him here again. You don't have to accept the fact that he's dead. I'm so sorry.
Well, I think you have to accept the fact that he's dead.
Well, I mean,
And at some point you do.
yeah.
But you don't tell them that. I mean, at some point they'll realize on their own that, yeah, he's really gone. I've heard so many people say,
That's the whole point. Let them realize.
letting them work through it. But I've heard so many people say early on that I just keep expecting to walk back through that door any minute. This just can't be happening. It's just not, it can't be true.
Or I feel him there in the room.
Yeah.
You ever heard somebody say that? I feel them there in the room.
Yeah, and you don't deny that they're feeling that. You just say, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you feel that way. Tell me more about what you're feeling. Just never make them feel like they're wrong or a bad person for their feelings. Allow them to have the feelings they have. All right, expressing your own grief. Number 5, expressing your own grief can be a good way to show your care receiver how much you care. You must, what am I showing on the screen?
Did I let it go?
Okay, yeah, that's okay. I'm actually one slide ahead of myself there. That's why I was seeing it there and thinking, this don't match, but it's okay. All right, there may be times, however, when the most caring thing to do is to keep your own feelings in check. For instance, sometimes the care receiver may need you to be the strong one while he or she is expressing deep grief. You also don't want the grieving person to feel obligated to become a caregiver for you, so it's important not to completely break down. Even if you're kind of feeling, it brings back feelings of grief for you, you've got to try to be able to kind of keep that in check. And you don't want them ever to feel like they need to help you out, because that's putting more pressure on them not to feel what they feel. So use good judgment as to when and how to express your own grief. Consider the situation, your relationship with the grieving person, and the relationship you may have had with the person who died. The shock phase can be confusing, troubling time for care receivers. By ministering to people in the ways we've talked about, you can help them as they work through the initial shock and move to the second phase, recoil. Even in non-caregiving situations where you're officially a Stephen minister for someone, even in dealing with death with another church member that you're close to, or with a family, with other family members, sometimes knowing when to control your own emotions and help the person who is closest to the situation. It's good if you can do that, even if it's not really in a formal care receiving situation. But if you are in a relationship with someone as a Stephen minister, you've got to be especially careful of not letting yourself get bogged down in that mud hole with them, which you can do if you start over empathizing with them and letting their feelings become too emotional for you. Take a deep breath, or take stock quickly and realize that you're taking care of them. They don't need to be taking care of you and trying to help you through what you're feeling. All right, the phase 2 is the recoil phase. We've already been through that one. I somehow gotten my slides off schedule here, so we're going to just move on. All right, we'll just read through this, and you won't be seeing what the subheadings are because I don't know how to make this go back. Don't go back, evidently. Okay. We'll just move on. We're on page 277. So you probably got that little, on 277, you got this list of.
Special dates.
Okay. I really need that slide, but I don't know of any way to get back to it because it does have headers on it that match. Here we go. I got it back. All right. Recoil is a long, challenging period of adjusting to the reality of life without the loved one. That process can last a year or even longer, and your care receiver will benefit greatly from your care and support during that time. Let's look at some specific ways you can help. First, be available. First, it's important for you to be available. Recoil is a time of many intense emotions, sudden shifts, and ups and downs. On some days, the person may seem to have adjusted well to the loss. On other days, he or she may be experiencing very intense feelings. A photograph, a song, a fragrance, or something else can cause a wave of grief seemingly out of nowhere. Let your care receiver know that sudden upsurges of grief are normal and be available to listen and care when they occur. You might could even just let them know that, if they experience some of this and they need you, they can call you if you're open to doing that, to a phone call when they just feel like they're overwhelmed with, they pulled out a favorite shirt that smells like the spouse that just died and the emotions just overwhelm them.
Yeah.
You can't be with them every time they're going to have something like that. But if you're open to it and it's not too intrusive into your schedule, you could say, if you really need to talk to me about this, call me and we'll do a brief, we can do a brief conversation and help you get past this. Because sometimes they do just all of a sudden need some help. And sometimes it's just a matter of giving them time to take a deep breath and get over it. And sometimes they'll do that on their own. Anyway, I remember when my youngest daughter lost a boyfriend when she was a freshman in college. And she had a shirt that he used to wear that she took home with her. And as she would occasionally, that's the smell of the cologne or whatever on that shirt would just be overwhelming to her. I mean, she just, it was just too much. She didn't cry a lot. She's not a crier. But it was very emotional time that it didn't take but that much to bring it all back, And it's sometimes a picture or any number of things that just brings that memory back. And it's a difficult little bit of time anyway that it takes to kind of just take a deep breath and get realize you got to move on.
Just a shadow
Yeah. Don't take a hold.
across the window.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, be aware of special dates or events. Second, be aware of any days or events that may be especially difficult for your care receiver. It can help to record these dates on a confidential calendar and make plans to be with or call your care receiver on such dates, or possibly to give a card or a short note. Focus Note 9 contains some examples. I'm just going to kind of briefly go through these. You've got them all there, but I'm going to kind of anniversary of a death, anniversary of the death of another loved one, birthday of the person who died, the birthday of the person who's grieving because that person's not there to share it with them, a wedding anniversary, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, Christmas holidays, other holidays, first day of school or other life stage events, or special events that the grieving person usually shared with the deceased loved one, such as family reunions at fairs and festivals. I just took your part and moved on.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I got caught.
That's all right. No big deal. We just decided it was time to move on. All right. Number 3 on page 278. Recall is a time of powerful emotions, so you'll want to help your care receiver deal with those feelings. Module 2 identifies 3 steps for dealing with feelings listed in Focus Note 10. The recognize, accept, and express. Throughout your care receiver's grief, you'll want to help him or her recognize, accept, and express any difficult feelings whenever they occur. Talking about feelings doesn't always come easily to someone who sometimes care receivers may need your encouragement to open up. For instance, if your care receiver is silent but appears to be fighting back tears, you may say something like what's in Focus Note 11. Something like, you haven't said much about all that happened. I want to let you know that it's all right to cry if you want to. But sometimes you know that they're just fighting to keep from, because they don't want to cry in front of people. And something is like, have you got, is there some feelings you're wanting to share today? Just to encourage them to talk a bit. You could fill in any emotion where it says cry. It's all right to be angry. It's all right to be upset or sad, or whatever feeling the person may be holding in. Remember, everyone's grief is different, so be on the lookout for a wide range of feelings during recall. such as sadness, guilt, anger, panic, and loneliness. Focus note 12 on page 279 lists some questions you might ask to encourage your care receiver to recognize, accept, and express feelings. Francis, you want to read through those kind of quickly for us? Those,
Focus note 12.
yes.
What are you remembering today about name of deceased? Tell me about how you and he or she met. What were your happiest times together? What were some sad and difficult times you spent together? Tell me some of the stories about him or her. May I see pictures? What were some of the important events in your life together? What do you wish had been different in your life? Are there any memories of name that bring up difficult feelings for you now?
Yeah. And those are some questions that you might just kind of put somewhere back in your memory so that it will, kind of come to you when you need them to be able to move on, and about just encouraging them to share their feelings, because you won't have a list of questions in front of you. But some of them you just automatically kind of remember, that may I see a picture of Joe or whatever. Anyway, focus note 13 shows what one Stephen minister said to draw out his care receiver's feelings. I'm just going to read through what the statement was on that one. My care receiver had lost his wife of 50 years. We had been meeting weekly for several months, but he still was having a difficult time opening up. The turning point came one day when I asked if he had a favorite picture of him and his wife. He got out the family photo albums, and we began looking through all the pictures together. As we did, he shared story after story about his wife and their marriage and the grief and loneliness he was feeling. The feelings began to flow, and our relationship moved to a deeper level. Sometimes there's just a dam there that you got to break. And once they break it and they get past that, they get more comfortable with sharing what's in their heart, what's really bothering them. For that particular caring relationship, asking about pictures is what opened the door for the care receiver to begin expressing his feelings. That might be a good possibility for you and your care receiver, or something else might draw out your care receiver's feelings. The key is to find ways to help the person connect with his or her feelings through stories, memories, experiences, and thoughts about the loved one. That's one of the best ways you can help your care receiver work through the deep feelings related to grief. Sometimes people need to share the same feelings or same story over and over and over and over and over before they can finally let go of the pain. That's perfectly normal. If your care receiver apologizes for being repetitive, assure him or her that you don't mind at all, and that's why you're there, to care and to listen. I had one lady, honestly, for I don't know how many months. Nearly every visit, we went over through some of the same stories. But I never acted like I'd heard them before or that I was tired of hearing them. She was needing to share those. And she didn't remember that she'd shared them already, which is fine because you don't always remember what you've shared. So you just listen. If it's a story you've heard 10 times, you just listen like it's first time and encourage them to go ahead and share. And eventually they'll move on to another story. But it's something they've got in their mind that they've got to deal with. Number 4, caring for a grieving person is often an excellent time to use the distinctively caring tools we explored in Module 4. People often struggle spiritually during grief. So resources of the Christian faith, including prayer, forgiveness, and scripture, can be powerful ways to care when used at the right time and in the right manner. You got to know whether they're receptive to that or if they're dealing with anger toward God and that bringing that up is just going to be harder. You got to know when to use scripture and prayers. You okay?
Okay, I checked this drink.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to be sure he's okay. Number 4, caring for a grieving person is often an excellent time to use the distinctively caring Christian caring tools we experienced explored in Module 4. People often struggle spiritually during grief, so resources of the Christian faith, we just read that one. Sorry about that. But since these Christian tools of the trade are so powerful, it's important to be careful and sensitive to the needs, concerns, and comfort level of care receivers. Some care receivers may be unfamiliar or uncomfortable with certain Christian practices. Others may be open to them, but the timing just isn't right. For instance, Scripture can be a great source of hope and comfort, but if it's shared at the wrong time or in the wrong situation, a hurting person might not get much out of it or may be even upset afterwards. I'll take the example of prayer. You will likely pray for your care receivers during your own private times of prayer. But before suggesting to pray with them during a caring visit, consider their receptivity, situation, and feelings at that time. Many care receivers will appreciate your praying with them, but others may be feeling angry with God at the time, and asking them to pray with you before they've had the chance to talk about that anger may only intensify those difficult feelings. So listen carefully to your care receivers and consider their needs and receptivity before offering to pray, read scriptures, or use other Christian resources. That way you can be sure you're using these powerful tools in ways and at times your care receivers may truly value and appreciate. Guard against platitudes, cliches, and other hurtful expressions. We talked about that just a few minutes ago. We're at number 5 on page 280, in case you've come lost where we're going. Sometimes people don't know what to say to those who are grieving, and they end up saying platitudes, cliches, and other hurtful expressions. Such words may be intended to help, but they often come across as cold and uncaring. Some examples of platitude are listed in Focus Note 14, such as, I know just how you're feeling. You need to start looking to the future and quit holding on the past. Every cloud has a silver lining. Everything will be all right. Our all-time favorite, time heals all wounds. It's time for you to get on with your life. She or he had a good life. There's room in Focus Note 14 to add to this list. What other platitudes or cliches have you heard? Does anything immediately come to mind? Maybe they
will never put more on you than you can handle.
Absolutely, that's my favorite. You're so strong, God will never put more on you than you can handle. Maybe they were said to you or someone else, or perhaps they're platitudes you've said to others in the past, since we've all probably said things like this at one time or another. Let's take a few minutes to share some examples. Anybody have anything they want to share of something that's been said to them or that you remember having said that you later figured out that that wasn't a good thing to say? No? How about,
I've been in your same situation.
how about only the good die young?
Oh, yes, love that.
That's what I heard. Well, only the good die young. Keep a stiff upper lip. At that one, it's all in God's will. Well, that may be true, but you don't want to be told that at that time. That just makes you more angry, especially if you're one of those that's angry. Yeah, we talked about the fact that He won't give you more than you can handle. And my all-time favorite, take one day at a time. Well, that's all we can any of us take, but you don't want to be told that that's all you can do is take one day at a time. Most people don't say words like these to be insensitive. Typically, they're just not sure what to say. So they reach for a cliche that sounds caring or profound, but comes away as empty or hurtful. So if you've used some of these expressions in the past, go easy on yourself and just be aware of these phrases so you can avoid using them in the future. If you hear someone sharing a platitude that your care receiver, you may want to talk to your care receiver about it later. Focus note 15 on page 281 gives an example of how you might do that. Since we're a little short of time, I'm just going to read through those instead of having y'all read them. I think it might be quicker. I've noticed when your friend told you everything would turn out all right, it seemed that wasn't what you wanted to hear. No, it wasn't. That's so easy for her to say, but she didn't just lose her husband. Stephen Minister. It sounds like you're thinking she doesn't really understand what you're going through. No, if she knew what it was like, she wouldn't have said that. And it hurt you that she said that. It did, even though I know she was trying to be helpful. We've all done it. On occasion, a care receiver may say a platitude to him or herself as a way of trying to make sense out of a loss. Focus note 16 shows how you might handle that. All right, I am going to let's see, I did Hilden. Francis, would you read the care receiver part and let Sherry read the Stephen Minister part on focus note 16?
I just guess God needed him in heaven.
Could you tell me more about that?
I don't know. It's just so hard to understand why.
It must be difficult to wrap your mind. It must be difficult to wrap your mind around it.
Note that the Stephen Minister didn't challenge the platitude, but instead gave the care receiver a chance to think and talk about it. There may be times when the care receivers need to hang on to a platitude for a while. You might find an opportunity to talk about it again later. A sixth way to care during recoil is to mobilize support for various types of needs your care receiver may have, which is the focus of Module 17 on using mental health professionals and other community resources. Mobilizing support means looking at what types of physical, practical, social, or other needs your care receiver might have, and then working with your care receiver to find other ways to meet those needs. It could be that the loved one who died was the one who did the housework, or home maintenance, or balanced the checkbook, and the care receiver needs help with those tasks. Or the care receiver may need help with child care, or transportation, or in some other way. Or perhaps the care receiver may benefit from a support group for those who have suffered similar losses. Whatever the situation, your role as a Stephen Minister wouldn't be to jump in and fill those needs yourself. Rather, you would help your care receiver find the additional support elsewhere, consulting with your supervision group and with Stephen leaders as needed. Help them find the resources they need. You don't have to be all their resources. Okay, now we're on page 282. The third phase, rebuilding, begins at different times for different people and for different losses. For some, it may start months after the loss. For others, it may take longer to begin this phase. Even at this point in grief, people will continue to experience waves of loneliness, sadness, anger, and other difficult feelings. So they'll still benefit from your care and support. Part of rebuilding involves deepening existing relationships or starting new ones to fill the void left by the loss, which can be challenging for many people. Your care will take all these needs into account. First, you'll continue to visit your care receiver and provide emotional support during the rebuilding phase. Over time, your visits may involve less in-depth discussion, but your care receiver may still need and appreciate your care. Second, encourage your care receiver to gradually expand his or her social circle, taking small, gradual steps as he or she is ready. The amount of encouragement you need to provide here will vary from person to person. Someone who's shy may need more help than someone who's more extroverted. You might talk with your care receiver about ways to renew old friendships or form new ones. You might ask about your care receiver's hobbies or interests and discuss ways to use them to connect with other people. Focus on the process of exploring possibilities with your care receiver, encouraging him or her to follow through while always allowing your care receiver to move at his or her own pace. You encourage, but you don't push. Third, Throughout the rebuilding phase, keep paying attention to your care receiver's feelings and encouraging him or her to express those feelings from time to time. You may want to ask questions such as those in Focus Note 17. We're coming up on the anniversary of when Chris died. How are you feeling about that? Or we haven't talked about Chris for a while. Tell me how you're feeling. Sometimes they may still have a lot of things left to say, but they just hadn't. Sometimes bringing their name up is hard. You can see from those questions that as a care receiver, as a caregiver, you're called to do something many people avoid, mentioning the lost loved one by name. Focus Note 18 shows how the caring act was significant to one care receiver. After my son Matthew died, most people avoided mentioning his name, thinking it might make me sad. But my Stephen minister would ask me about Matthew regularly, and every time I was glad for the chance to talk about him. I would sometimes shed some tears while doing so, but that was important to me because it helped me feel connected to Matthew. So throughout the grief process, don't be afraid to say the loved one's name. You may be the only person the grieving person has to talk openly about treasured memories and deep emotions. They may be afraid to bring the name up and because they would make somebody else hurt more. So, Robert, you want to do the 5, and you can probably maybe get us.
Hazel turned the heat on, I said.
I don't.
I said Hazel turned on the heat.
Turn on the heat.
I did. I was cold.
That's a dark house.
Are you warm? Are you too warm? Are you too hot?
It's next slide. 18.
We just leave them here at 10.
There we go. All right, in your group, quickly decide who will be person A, person B, and person C. Well, that's easy enough, isn't it? I am on, I don't know what page I'm on in your book.
283. Is that what it is?
Look for focus number
19
It's
18,
283.
and then go to the next page. 19, okay. So just chill out and listen to me for a few minutes because we ain't got to focus 19, so you can just listen to me. Now you're going to practice caring for grieving care receivers in each of the 3 phases of grief. Start by gathering in groups of 3, spreading out around the room. Take your manual with you. Well, that's easy enough. In your group, decide who's A, B, and C. That's, you know, who's A, B, and C. Person A is the Stephen minister. Person B is the care receiver. Person C is the observer.
Is that Focus Note 19 or 20?
Well, we're getting to 19. We're getting there. Just hang on and listen.
Okay.
There will be 3 skill practices, and you'll each have a chance to play each role. For skill practice 1, person A will be the Stephen minister, person B the care receiver, person C the observer. There's a detailed description of the care receiver situation in Focus 19 on page 283. You there? All right, care receivers and observers, look over Focus number 19. Stephen ministers, do not look at Focus note 19. Instead, here's the background information you need to know. So who's going to be the Stephen minister?
You're almost switch roles anyway. I just start.
All right, Sherry, you're the Stephen's minister to start with. Okay, so you don't look at Focus number 19. You don't read that one. Instead, here's the background information that you need to know. The care receiver's brother died of a heart attack just about a week ago. You've been the care receiver's Stephen minister for a different need for about a month. You're meeting him or her the afternoon after the funeral. Care receivers and observers. Who's the care? Francis, you're care receiver. Hazel, you're the observer. Take a moment now to read Focus 19. So read Focus number 19.
Care receiver and observer.
Yes, the caregiver and the observer. Care receiver and observer. Read Focus number 19.
Out loud.
Yeah, go ahead and read it out loud, Francis.
No, I'll send Sherry out here.
Oh yeah, Sherry here. She can't know it. All she knows is that your brother has died about a week ago. She's been your caregiver for about a month for a different reason. All right, so you and Hazel read 19. All right, you got it?
I think I can do this.
Then you can do it.
I think so.
All right. Observers, Hazel,
Yes.
pay attention to how the Stephen minister handles the situation. After the skill practice, you will lead discussion for the group. You have 4 minutes for your skill practice. Go ahead and begin.
So I'm ready to talk to my person. Right?
Yes, you're ready to talk to your person now. She's come to see you because you've been in a relationship for about a month, but now your brother has died. So Sherry, you open up the conversation.
Francis.
I'm sorry, Francis, you open the conversation.
I just can't believe he's dead.
You have to make up what to say. There's no notes. You have to make up what to say.
Well, tell me he died. I mean,
Her brother, well, she doesn't know that. She didn't get to read Focus 19. Yeah, but she doesn't know that. She hasn't read Focus number 19.
It says that she was, she's speaking after the funeral. She's speaking with her after the funeral, so.
You're right, it does.
And the
Yeah.
funeral's over, so she came to me.
Well, it says at the bottom of that paragraph is the skill practice by saying, I just can't believe he's dead. That's what she starts.
Yes,
That's how you started.
No, that's how Francis.
that's how Francis starts.
I came to my person
To Sherry, you're saying to Sherry, I just can't believe he's dead. Sherry answers with,
well, that's what I asked. Who,
but you already know it's a brother. You've been at the funeral, so you know.
I was at the funeral.
Yeah, you know the brother's dead. You were at the funeral. You've come to visit her. Now, what do you say when she says, I just can't believe he's dead?
Well, tell me about him then. I mean,
No, that's a good question to open up with. Tell me about him. Tell me a little bit about him.
I hear what's going on in Jesus. I'm sorry. I can't help myself. Oh, he was my little brother. He was just a little bit. Why are you touching me?
Actually, go ahead.
No, it's Hazel that is like touching me.
Angel, you're the observer. You're not supposed to do anything. Angel, you're the observer. You don't do anything. You just listen.
The brother's died, correct?
No, her brother died.
She's Stephen Minister.
No, she's the care receiver.
Oh, I misunderstood.
Okay.
I just can't believe he's dead. I mean, he's my younger brother. He was just a couple of years younger than me, and we just did everything together when we were growing up. And after we're grown, we haven't been as close, but I just still can't believe he's dead.
so you didn't keep in touch with him?
Is that what you're going? I ain't seen her in a long time. Sorry. We need to restart.
Let's just skip this.
Thank you.
All right.
It was too much fun at a funeral.
Yeah, I know. Now discuss, well, we can't really discuss skill practice because we didn't do much. Let's look at focus note number 20.
It's another one.
It's another one of those.
The next three is the same way.
Every receiver and the observer.
There's a detailed description of the care receiver situation, focus note 21 on page 284. Look over the focus note. Francis, you're the Stevens minister this time. Hazel, you're the care receiver. Sherry, you're the observer. All right, what you need to know, Francis, it's been 3 months since your care receiver's mother died, and he or she is experiencing some strong feelings. Care receiver, Hazel and Sherry, take a moment now to read focus note number 21. Okay, observe. Watch how the Stephen minister responds and handles the situation. After the skill practice, you'll lead the discussion. You have 4 minutes. Go ahead and begin. All right, so Francis, you are the Stevens minister this time.
And I'm the receiver.
And you're the receiver. 3 months since your mother died, and you are experiencing strong feelings.
Okay. I know you've heard this before, but I'm still so angry with the ambulance driver, crew, and the hospital staff.
I know it's a hard situation for you.
You know, if the ambulance driver just been here a little sooner, like they should have, you know.
Yeah.
You have to have an answer.
I'm sorry, I've been tickling.
Hey, this is supposed to be serious.
We lost it some time ago.
I can tell that. I can tell y'all have lost it.
This particular part right here.
I can tell y'all have lost it.
Okay. You said that
She said if the ambulance drivers had done more, they might could have saved his life.
He'd still be alive. She, my mother might still be living if they'd have gotten here like they should have and not been so slow. She might still be alive.
okay, I don't know what to say.
Tell me more about that.
Okay.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Seriously, at this point, I didn't know what to say. Okay, so
Tell me-
I don't have to go back with 2 or 3 sentences. I just go back to listen to her.
You just,
Which makes sense.
Exactly.
We just never kind of played it that way.
exactly. What you're doing here is you're asking open-ended questions to get information out of her.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay.
It's not only the ambulance crew, it was the hospital staff. They were just all so slow and just didn't seem to care.
I know that was hard on you. Tell me more. Tell me more about how it was.
Well, they just seemed to be handling other things and other people were more important. They just, at times I didn't know if they knew what they were doing.
I know it was your mother,
It was.
Right, you know it's a mother.
and how close you are.
I just don't understand this. I don't understand how they could just be so slow and not, they seem like they weren't caring.
Tell me a little bit more about your mother.
My mother,
Or is that a good thing?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Tell me a little more about your
To
mother.
get you off the
Yep,
ambulance and
Yep.
things. Okay. This is my first
yep,
road down here.
yep. No, that's a good question. Tell me more about your mother.
my mother and I,
Before she.
my mother and I were like sisters. After Dad died, I was so young. My mother, she was just wonderful, wonderful. She did everything for me. She led me through school. She helped me with all my problems, and I just can't see life without her.
Sure you miss her. So tell me what you did when you were growing up. What was the best time with her?
Well, she always went with me. She was another daughter dancer for church and school, and she came to all my ball games. I was a cheerleader, and she made my cheerleading outfit, and she just did everything for me. And when I had a problem, she was always there to listen. Always.
She must have been a really special person.
She wasn't.
All right, let's send it to you. Tell me about the discussion. Sherry, you're helping out here. As the observer, what did you see about the discussion? Other than it hit too close to home.
Well, I see that the Stephen minister was really caring, and the person that was hurting was letting out what they were going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. Asking open-ended questions. Don't ask yes or no questions. When you said, tell me about your mother, or tell me how that feels. Even when she was complaining about the ambulance drivers, well, what did they do that made you think they didn't care? Give her a chance to work out her feelings within herself.
You would go more to the ambulance drivers first than to the mother lady.
I probably would have, because she was so angry with them. I probably would have gone to, tell me more what you think the ambulance drivers didn't do. Or tell me,
She told me, so
Right.
I should have gone with what she was telling me.
Right.
Then drift off another one.
Right.
Although I was thinking about her mother.
exactly. In this situation, her grief is important, going to tell me about your mother. That's important, okay? But her anger is with the ambulance drivers in the emergency room. That's what you want to help her work through. So when she says, well, I just think they could have done more. Well, tell me what more you think they could have done. Or tell me what they didn't do. Because she kept coming back to the anger, well, the emergency room seemed to have other people. Well, tell me what you wanted them to do that they didn't do. Always that tell me, so that you give the care receiver a chance to vent,
Yeah.
to fuss, to talk.
Instead of what I'm asking you.
Exactly.
I say, to tell me what you felt instead of me dragging the subject out.
Exactly.
Or you can say
That-
something like, I sense that you feel like they were, they didn't care. Is that what you're telling me? Or
Right.
validate the feelings that they're telling you, let them have a chance to expand on it. Because sometimes just get that anger out.
And the first level of grief is always, well, not always, but the majority of the time, the first level of grief is anger. You're mad at them because they left you.
Or guilt.
You just went awfully slow. Yeah, you're mad that they left you, or you're feeling guilty because you didn't do enough.
You didn't call the ambulance.
Yeah, you didn't call the ambulance fast enough. You might have even looked at her and said, so tell me, after she talks for a moment about what the ambulance drivers did wrong, you might have turned around and said, well, tell me how you feel about what you did. Tell me about what you were doing while the ambulance was working with them.
Tell me how you felt.
Yeah, tell me how you felt while watching them work on your mother. And stay with her feelings, because she's got a lot of anger. That needs to be worked out. So stay with your care receiver's feelings to help them talk through those. Sometimes they just need to talk through the feelings. Sometimes once you say, well, tell me what the ambulance drivers didn't do that you thought they should have done, and the care receiver says, well, I don't know.
Or they might say, I'm feeling bad because I'm a bad person for having these thoughts.
Yeah.
That they didn't do enough. They were doing everything they could. I just feel like I'm a bad person. Sometimes it gets down to the point of what
They did or didn't do. Right.
What not affecting them.
Right. What they did or they didn't do. Well, tell me who called the ambulance? We don't know who called the ambulance. That may be an important question because she's angry over they didn't do it. Well, tell me who called the ambulance. Well, did they get there in time? And you may very well pull out of her that she thinks she waited too long.
Yeah.
You may pull it out that she's not really mad at the ambulance drivers. She's mad at herself because she thinks she waited too long to call them. I should have called, and folks, I've heard it a million times. I should have called them sooner. I've heard it a million. And my answer to that is always, well, tell me why you think you should have called them sooner. Did you have an opportunity to call them sooner? Most time what you'll find out is they called them at the first opportunity they had.
But sometimes they've waited because they think that it might get better.
Right.
Or the person that you're calling ambulance for says, "I'm fine. I don't do that yet." You know? And they may have delayed calling when they should have called. There's
We had a
guilt on ourselves.
we had a situation here where the person kept saying, "I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine," and 2 days later they were dead. Ralph Sellers kept telling Nancy he was fine. And then it got to where he couldn't breathe and he kind of panicked and said he needed help. But for half a day, Ralph told Nancy he was fine.
Can I tell y'all something?
Yeah.
I had that stroke back in November.
Mhm.
They've told all this. I don't know. But we were sitting there one afternoon and watching TV in the bedroom. And I was just sitting there. And this right arm went numb.
Mm-hmm.
All the way up. Numb. And then my lips, both of them went numb. And I knew what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Bill, I said something. And then I said, I think I'm having a stroke. And bless his heart, he's good as gold. He came over to me, got right here, right in the face. Honey, do you think you need to go to the hospital? Just as calm as everything. And I said,
But see, the question itself tells you he wasn't calm.
do what?
The question itself tells you Bill wasn't calm.
Well, he seemed calm, but he was.
Acting calm,
But just
but
it says, well, I think we need to go to the hospital. Do you think we need to go to the hospital?
That was him trying to be calm.
that's him trying to be calm. Because you said, I think I'm having a stroke. What immediately hits him is, what's wrong? How bad?
He didn't ask those questions. He said, do you think we need to go?
Yeah.
But he got me to the hospital in just a matter of a couple minutes. I mean, we live over right by the hospital.
Right.
And the time we got there, he'd already talked to Nick. Nick had his boss waiting in the hall for me. They were waiting in the hall with their staff or whatever their group that worked on. Anyway.
Okay, advanced preparation. We're going to skip the Care Compass review because we've got time to do the advanced preparation.
So if you have an appointment in a few minutes,
Uh-oh.
No, not until 12:45.
I thought you had one at 11:45.
No, it's 12:45.
Uh-oh.
Only reason I know because I was there yesterday and that's when he told me.
I never get mad. There's a good woman.
Well, if we're skipping the conference, it just goes to looking ahead, which is
It
very.
is 11:45.
When I was telling him.
It is. Listen to these words of promise in the book of Revelation. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, see, the home of God is among mortals. He will dwell with them, and they will be his peoples, and God himself will be with them. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more, for the first things have passed away. God's wonderful promise is that a time will come when there is no more loss or grief. Jesus will fill our lives, and we will never feel sad or lonely again. Until that time, God works in and through us to help people journey through grief. Our next module will be caring for those with depression, the Stephen Minister's Role. Be sure to complete the pre-class reading in your Stephen Minister Training Manual before we get together. Let's close our time with prayer. So your assignment for next week is read Module 13, beginning on page 287, going through
The 96.
296. So 287. Wow, y'all got a short reading. You've only got, what, 13 pages? It's a short reading. All right, let's end with prayer together. Lord Jesus, you suffered loss and grief. You understand our pain. You have defeated death and promised us that we will spend eternity with you. Fill us with the hope of the good news so that, whether we suffer loss and grief ourselves or walk with our care receivers through that dark valley, we will always know you are with us, bringing healing, hope, and new life. Amen.
Sorry, I wouldn't want to end the class. I just know what you told me.
It only takes me 3 minutes to get there. Appreciate everyone.